Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second to last session. There's one more session on tech if you guys are interested. I don't remember what room number it is, but we do we talk about technology and we share different skills and strategies and things that we're doing. And I get very excited because I am a fan of technology. Um, and that would be from 5 to 6. But this will technically would be the last session from the regular set that we have today for COIB. My name is Jose Adorno. We are in a hybrid session, so those that are online, um, you have to use the Whova chat in order to communicate through because the Zoom chat is disabled. But welcome. Feel free to put any messages in the chat. We have Eliana that's going to be monitoring the chat for me, so I appreciate that. Um, my name is Jose Adorno. I'm the digital learning coordinator in Connecticut. My area is focusing on digital literacy implementation, strategies, trainings, and support for adult education teachers and staff. I have my company with my little buddy here. This is a little story that's going on where I bring a little Bluey character for my kids back at home, and I send pictures throughout the day of things that we're doing and that kind of thing. So he's behaving right now. So he's going to be my co-presenter for today. Our session is aligning curriculum with the Bridges framework. And before we move and show you all the good stuff, we wanted to briefly talk about what is ATDN and digital ATDN. ATDN stands for Adult Training and Development Network, and they are services funded by the Connecticut State Department of Education, the academic office to provide training opportunities and resources for adult education programs across the state. They are also home to professional and comprehensive in-person and online training for adult education professionals in numerous areas across the state. While we do focus in Connecticut, a lot of our resources, including what you're going. Hello? Oh, perfect. I just turned it off. I just muted myself. So a lot of the resources that you will see today is free for you to use. We do a lot of work in digital literacy and we collaborate with one of the ideal states. We have a slide at the end, and part of the resources that we're going to be talking about comes from a project from the Ideal Consortium, and it's excellent resource. So Jeff Gumas did a presentation this morning. Those that were, if you were tracking my session, originally it was in the morning, we did a swap. So anyone attended that session this morning? Awesome. Thank you. So I want to start with the real story. Who's familiar with Chrome, the Chrome browser? You guys use Chrome browser on a daily? So I would say for most of the room, Chrome, they never do updates, right? Or when they do is at the moment that I least expect. And sometimes I have too many tabs to run the update, and it's just this back and forth that we have. So before my presentation, not today, a different presentation about a month ago, I was procrastinating giving the update. So before an hour before the meeting, the session, I decided to do the update. And I was trying to open my tabs and I didn't look at what I had to, what was new. So what happened is that when I was trying to do a dual screen on the desktop, I ended up doing a dual screen on the browser. And I was like, wait, this is something new. I haven't done this before. I'm trying to figure out how to fix it. And I went to 3 stages, very similar to learners. Number one, I tried to do what I knew that I could do. Of course, I try to drag this out, try to move this to the side, and move the whole thing over. I made a whole nother window. And then I started to go into a little panic mode. Now I'm against a time clock. I need to figure out how I'm going to solve this. And I ended up closing it. Later on, it happened again. And I'm like, okay, I need to solve this, right? Me applying my skills, the ones that I know didn't work. So what happened is that on that second time, I go online and I take a look. There's 2 ways that you could do this. Of course, the typical right click on the tab gives you an option to arrange split view, and then you could just separate the views. The other way, which I didn't see because the window was too long for my desktop when I was trying to play around, is that at the bottom, oops, 1 second. At the bottom, they have this little ellipsis icon there. You click on it and then it says separate views, and that was it. Very simple, but sometimes when there's all these other things coming on, you can't necessarily see the solution right at that moment. And this is going to bring us to two things that we're going to be talking about today. One of them is digital literacy, but the other one is resilience. So my goal today is to share the approach we developed in Connecticut to streamline multiple digital literacy curricula into a pathway that better supports learners across different levels. And how are we going to do this? For today, we're going to look at the pathway that we worked on. First, by defining digital literacy. We want to understand how instruction moves from standards to practice. Examine how Bridges shapes curriculum alignment. Curious here, who's familiar with Bridges? Explore the digital literacy spectrum, and we're going to navigate tools to support curriculum use. We were talking about digital literacy, and the important thing right now to be so we're all on the same page is how we define digital literacy. We use the American Library Association for the definition, and that is digital literacy is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information, requiring both cognitive and technical skills. Now, those that have seen me in the past, there's two ways that I like to talk about. I like either bring a metaphor or bring an analogy to the table. Right now, we're just going to do a representation here. And we have a a literacy circle. So this is going to be assuming all of the digital literacy skills that a user would have in order to navigate and work with technology. But we talked about that it's not just knowing how to use digital literacy and how to do the steps to do the steps to complete a task, but it's also the resilience, the adapting to how, when technology changes. And to do that, we're going to divide, well, sorry, skipped ahead. So what we know is that we want to do that approach, but we have learners at different levels. You have learners that are even more tech savvy than I am in your classroom. You can have learners that might need additional support or they know how to do certain tasks until things change, like what happened with me in my example at the beginning. And you have students that just have some experience on a specific device and they're not able to transfer to a different technology. To show you how we're going to, and I didn't eat onions, by the way. To show you how we're going to make this split, we're going to look at digital literacy as an onion, right? We're gonna split this into 3 layers, just like Shrek. Ogres have layers. Digital literacy instruction also has layers. So our first layer here is going to be framework. Does anyone know what a framework is? Familiar with a framework? Right? So frameworks define what proficiency looks like. They show us the skill in action. A lot of our lesson plans, our instruction, our activities are always tied to some sort of standard, which is what they refer to them as like the skill, the goal that you want to reach. Now, frameworks do not teach you or do not give you the tools onto how to teach that skill. We need to go deeper to the next layer to give us that. That's going to give us curriculum. The curriculum is the roadmap. Here it gives you the lesson plans, the strategies, that alignment, that student population, the different factors that that are in consideration with that. The better the curriculum, the more detailed they are. Scope and sequences are excellent for that because it gives you like the bird's eye view of how you work with everything. However, what happens when a curricula lesson is not aligned to the level of support that our learners need? What do we do in that case when that curriculum doesn't address all your learners? It's going to take us to the third layer of the onion. Open educational resources. It could also be supplemental resources, right? But in this context of how we've organized our digital literacy curriculum, we're looking at OERs. It'll make a little bit more sense once we go into bridges and how that alignment works. But open educational free resources are free, flexible resources designed to be used for learning. And in this context, served as supplemental support to help differentiate instruction and strengthen this digital literacy development. So as you can see here, we have all three layers, all neatly organized, and all set. We're done, right? Realistically speaking, when we're looking in the classroom, we hope this was the case. But a real simulation of how this looks like is like this. We have a framework, we have a curriculum that somewhat targets some of those skills. We have open educational resources across the areas that either, as up here, right, it ties to a framework, but you don't have really a lesson in the curriculum that covers it. You might have a resource that really speaks to your students that it's so important and you find so useful, you have it on the side. Oops. And this is how, in reality, how a class looks like when you're trying to accommodate to your learners. It's messy. But what we want to do, or aim with the digital literacy curricula, was to make that implementation that a lot of teachers put in and make it a consistent approach. So we organize digital literacy through a shared framework that aligns curricula, skills, and resources. In other words, you have your framework here. You might start with a framework and you can bounce into open educational resources or curriculum. And you could, no matter whichever of the three that you're in, you could still access these resources through that connected framework. We want to jump into a Mentimeter before we continue. You could scan the QR code. I'll open it in a second. And I don't know if is it open? Can someone confirm that for me? Yes? Okay, perfect. Let me present here so that way you guys can see it. So here's what framework do you use at your agency? I already see two North Stars. Okay. I'm gonna give it a few more seconds. I see a couple more joining, so let me pause. Awesome. Oh wow, we wonder. Okay. 14 out of 15. That's probably me open on the other side. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So now is what curriculum do you use at your agency? So we talked about a framework and now we're looking at curriculum. If anyone is interested, those that say other and would you like to share, you're more than welcome to. Curious as to what they could be. Oh, okay. That's it's okay. That's fair. Okay. I'm gonna move to the next one. So our last question here, this is a multi-purpose question. Number one, I'm always willing to and find out more of what's out there that speaks to your to adult learners across not just Connecticut, but outside of Connecticut. But also, my goal is that I will screenshot this, I will export it and I'll include it in the presentation. So it'll be in your slides as well. So that way you guys could, if there's anything that piques your interest, you could, jump in. This will be open for the remainder of the conference, well, actually of today. And then what I'll do is that I'll include it and all of that's going to be in the Hoova app. I have a shared folder that I included. So it has like our handouts and all the other information. So that way, not everything is in one place. So that way you have everything available. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. And let's get back to the presentation. Any questions up to this point? I see in the chat there, I don't see any questions either, but feel free to use the Hoova chat in order to share your questions. Oh, there's a Q&A, right? Okay, thanks. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Okay. So framework. We use the framework called Bridges, Digital Literacy, Digital Resilience. And that was developed by World Education through their Crowded Initiative and EdTech Center. And it's built from research across multiple curricula and frameworks. It identifies 10 common digital literacy domains. And the best thing of it, for me, my favorite part of it, is that it provides a plain language scope of how they answer. So if those that are familiar with ISTE, ISTE will give you the standard, like what you gain from using the technology, that learning behind it. Bridges will give you what that skill looks like. So it's a lot more shorter. It's easier to kind of align because it's not too specific. I included some resources here. One of them is going to be the Bridges Digital Resilience Toolkit. We will look into this a little bit more as an example. We have the digital skill set for diverse students users report by the City of Seattle Digital Equity Initiative. I was a fan of this, but my background is data, so there's a lot. They make the crosswalk between the different frameworks and curriculum and what areas that they focus on. What's the approach of how they solve or they develop digital literacy, and then across of all of that they got together. They made the 10 domains and the standards and the skills. And then I have a presentation here of Bridges. It's from our website. However, I will recommend that you will watch Jeff Goomis' presentation. It's in the Hoova app. If you type in Bridges, you'll be able to pull up that session and be able to watch it. Like it was also a hybrid. So these are recorded. So again, I would definitely recommend to look that one. That's the latest as of this morning. So fresh off the oven. Okay, so we take the Bridges framework and we use that as our foundation. And now it's time to create that roadmap. So we select three curricula that meets the needs of our adult education population. These three curricula were already used to some extent at the agency, And if they were not, we did a pilot in order to bring that um, to see how they were being implemented, how we can support them, and then roll out the curriculum. We focused that alignment to happen at the digital skill level. So there were some of them already aligned with some of the standards, and we kind of make that connection. And then from there, we map the standards, the lessons, and resources for each of the curriculum to Bridges. Originally, we wanted to do it, all around, but then it got more complicated. So it's easier if we picked a foundation that we could work off of. And to show that, we have a spectrum with Bridges as our foundation right here. Okay. This literacy spectrum shows how curricula aligns across levels of digital literacy. So we're looking at from beginner on the left to advanced to the right, or applied to the right. We consider language, skills, context, and other factors for placement, and we support progression across curricula based on learner needs through that alignment. In order to really explain this, I wanted to do my analogy, right? I already did one, so I guess this one has two. The first one, this one is based on movement. So which one is the fastest of the three? The car, right? So the fastest one is the car. How much energy is that person putting in to move at that speed? Is it a lot? Is it, right? Just a little bit, right? But if we're looking onto the left, which then is the slowest, of course, it's more energy that is being used. There's more muscles to be able to move from, across the hall. It takes more effort, more coordination. So when we're looking at digital literacy and we're teaching, the further to the left the learners are, the more effort the more efforts required to be able to move. So when you have too many steps and they're not able to walk or go on a car, it's a lot more effort. That's when we start to see in the classrooms why, students take so long to, there's all that process getting them on, and you have to repeat it time after time because they're still crawling and doing a lot of intention and coordination to get to one place to the next. And the way we're going to present this is how we went through this. So we started with Google Applied Digital Skills. That the curriculum for us was, this is the curriculum that aligns best with our students. It's project-based. It shows our learners how they could really, it shows learners how they could use technology in the classroom. It gives them the why, the reason. Why do I need to learn technology? Well, you could create it. You could create. You could do your planning. You could do. You could use spreadsheets and other areas for different contexts. However, what happened with Google, and anyone who uses Google here, how many people are excited with the changes from Google? Okay. We having a love-hate relationship right now with it. Basically, one of the things that happened is that they cleaned up a lot of the lessons that they had. And we had over 150 aligned lesson resources. It went down to like 57. Um, and a lot of those links then were not working anymore. They moved to a different platform. They're still very useful. It's just we have to then reevaluate how that alignment looks. But a lot of our learners weren't able to work on it because in order for them to get into Google, they needed to get on the computer. They needed to identify the browser, get on the browser, type in the website, go onto the go onto the page, log in, remember their password, access the video, and then manage the website, manage whatever tool they're using, and going into that video in that back and forth. Remember when we were talking about students that were crawling, that's a lot of crawling in order for them to get to that skill. And because of that, Google, while it was it aligned to a lot of so our learners that were in CDP and GED. There was a lot of it took too long. Teachers were spending too much time getting students just to get to sign in. So we needed something else. That brought us to North Star Digital Literacy. How many are familiar with North Star? Awesome. How many use North Star? How many are happy with North Star? That's gonna be my question for all of them. So North Star, we have a statewide license in Connecticut. Agencies opted at the beginning of the school year, and they have a full year access to North Star. What does North Star bring to the table that Google didn't? At number one, it was assessments. They could do assessments. They have standards. So now, not only they do the assessment, you know what skills they need to work on. They have interactive simulations, which meant that once they were into the module, they were able to work specifically with that module without needing to manage different tabs and browsers. The standards were they will break it down. So drag and drop and knowing when to left click and scroll and right click, those are standards. And we needed that in order to really dig down into that foundation that we knew that students were having issue with when we were looking with Google. However, it does require foundational reading skills. North Star states, or in the requirements, they say that their content is they recommend a reading score of 211 or higher for a CASAS reading score. That is equivalent to like midway of an NRS level, ESL level 4 learner. So what happens with ESL level 1, 2, and 3? It's not accessible. Not because the content is not relevant, but now it's the language. See how those factors change from the top? The deeper we went into the onion, the more we see the different factors that really change things. So for that, we went into our next curriculum, which is the DART curriculum. Who's familiar with DART? How many people like DART? Oh, yeah. How many people use DART? Let me say it that way. Okay. And people are happy with DART? Okay. So DART means Digital Access and Resilience in Texas. And we're in Connecticut. So I said, do we call it dark? But so we've been using Dart for already this is our third year. We did a pilot and we picked agencies of North Star that were already implementing the curriculum. They had some success with North Star, but they were hitting to those gaps that we were referring to earlier. So the most common use of Dart was that they were using that to supplement where they were hitting those gaps in North Star. If something was too advanced, they will go into North Star. I mean, Dart. Dart is geared for pre-beginner and beginner learners, ESL learners. They also use ESL strategies in their lessons, and they support the digital foundation. So the first 7 lessons, 6, 6, 7, right? I have 2 girls. I'm sorry, it just came out naturally. The girls would like that if they heard it. So those first lessons only are focused on keyboarding, knowing the placement of the keys, knowing the placement on the symbols, and show you up to how to create a password. All of that happens out before using technology. You can, and there's ways that it's in the lessons, there are ways for you to use technology at those stages. However, it's not a requirement for that. And then starting at lesson 8 and up, it starts to bridge in North Star if you wanted to use it. And again, then you have that foundation. Any questions up to this point? Looking at this together, we have what we call the Digital Literacy Curriculum page. This is part of our website. It looks like Pages. I was part of that When it printed out, it doesn't come out that nice though. But each curriculum page includes an overview of the curriculum. It goes over the Bridges alignment supporting skills, which I'll show you. And it gives you recommendations on where to begin when working with beginner, experienced, and proficient digital literacy learners within that curriculum. We're going to go into a live demonstration. Very easy to get to our website. So it's www.digital.atdnct.org. And from there, we have like our digital literacy page. We will go over, I will ask you to go in there and explore. I will do a little demonstration so you can see what's there, and then you can jump in. Plus, we have a brand new hot off the press release that came out maybe an hour before we started. So this is our digital, oh, 1 second. So when you go to our website, just this is a good example here. It says new registration system. You don't have to worry about that. You could just close it out. We have a new registration system and a conference coming up for Connecticut. So then that's why that message comes there. So you could close it and you continue going to the resource. So this is our page, right? We have our spectrum here. We have information generally on what that what we did. And I'm just going to announce it here. The new piece here is that we updated our Glide app on this curriculum. And again, like about an hour ago. So now I included the link here. If you wanted to explore, specifically if you want to look at Google Applied Digital Skills, I will explain why in a bit. But that's all the aligned resources, all that has been completed thanks to the team, and it's going to be here. Now, you could select any of the three, but I know there's some agents, some of the participants didn't have a particular curriculum that they were using. So the question is, well, where do you start? We have a choosing your curriculum document that we recommend you using. So when you go onto the website and you go into the curriculum guide, we have what we call a 5-step process. And in this 5-step process, you're going to see some questions. Based on how you answer those questions, you either go into that curricula or you move on. So our first stop is the CASA score. Does your learner have a reading score of 211 or higher? If it's a yes, you can move to step 2. If it's a no, then your first stop is start curriculum. We have three recommendations of what you can do on how to start with that. And then you could continue to move. If you said yes, then you go to step 2. You have here device experience. Does your learner have some experience using a computer, tablet, or phone or smartphone? If it's a yes, go to step 3. If it's a no, again. So you continue until you hit your first no. And then that would help you determine that curriculum. So once you do that, we'll go back into our resources, into our website, and then you can select your curriculum. I am going to choose here North Star because it's right down the middle. You have your information like what is it, why is it worth considering, and what are digital literacy requirements? And 3 ways on why is this curriculum great? And here is your alignment. So right now, North Star, just to let you know, it's the only one that targets all 10 domains of Bridges. Fun fact. Dart has about 7 or 8. And then Google, it was originally 8. It went lower with the changes, but we did a new alignment. So we're updating the website piece for that. That's going to be going live some point next week. The app is already all set with all the new alignment. So that's why I was recommending to check the website for the new alignment for if you're looking for Google specifically, you can have the new alignment there with all the lessons and everything. So let's say we're looking at communication. So looking at North Star, if you're using email, that's communicate effectively. That is one standard. This is bridges, communicate effectively, share information with others, and everything here is communication skills that you're working on. You could click on these and they're going to take you to North Star. You do have to have an account to be able to access it because it's going to take you to their module. And or if you're looking for open educational resources, then you will click here on this link. This is going to take you to the Digital Skills Library, which is part of Bridges. And here you're going to see the same skills. So if I go back and I'm looking at communicate effectively, I had here email as the option. I could go here. I'm going to look for that skill, communicate effectively. I click. There's a lot of resources that I recommend to take, spend some time to look in Bridges. They have strategies, they have routines, they have skills, vocabulary, you name it. They have a lot of research-based resources and strategies that you can use. But here we're already using North Star. That's our main curriculum, and we need some additional help with communication. So right now, everything that is aligned to communicate effectively is going to be listed here. So you have iPhone and iPad for we're looking at email, right? Support K to 12. Again, look at North Star right here. And they have different skills that you could look at. You could also type, and they have them in Spanish here. I was part of that cohort, and I helped to do the translation because I speak Spanish. To align the translation, I didn't write these, by the way. But then you have here different resources that like intro to email right here. So if you needed a different modality or a different approach on how this, you could teach that, you could have all these resources here together. So what is the plan right now? I want you to take your time, take a moment. Gonna go back to our presentation. We want to go into digital literacy curricula. Or, I mean, that's the website right there. If you just go in and type in, I'm going to show you the other way to do this, so you don't have to type everything in. If you go to just our main website, which is digital.atdnct.org, you could go to content areas, and then you have digital literacy curricula. And that's going to launch you into that page. Okay. So step one, we want to go into that choose your curriculum. And I want you to ask the questions. Think of a population that you have in your classroom and or at your agency, and find where is your stop from the 5 steps. Once you determine that, go back go back to the website and go to that curriculum, and then just do some exploration. Any questions up to this point? Any questions on the process of where we were? This is 4 years of us not working on this. We started with Google, saw those gaps. We went into North Star, saw some gaps, and we went to Dart, saw some gaps. And we found like, okay, this is a good stop. And all of a sudden we had to figure out, okay, how do I explain this to a teacher? How do I explain this to staff? Oh, if you need this, you could go here, you could go here. And we did that for some time. But this alignment just helps us to really, if your area is to focus on communication, then it's connecting you to communication, bless you, to communication across all of the everything that's available. And if there's not enough there, because as we know as educators, we don't always have all of the answers in the curriculum. How do we expand the curriculum and access something that really speaks to your learners? So, well, let's touch base again in 10 minutes and see how that is. And if you guys want more time, we could do that. Those that have their phone, I would invite you. I mean, the website's mobile friendly. The spreadsheet, There is a spreadsheet there that's not, I mean, I love spreadsheets. I don't love spreadsheets in on mobile, right? They're not accessible. But if you would like, we could do the app. And for the app, let me show you what would happen if you go to the app. You click here, Racy New Digital Literacy Curricula Lite app. This is a desktop version of it. It looks it looks nice on mobile. Um, you go here by domain in standard, and then you pick you pick your domain. So let's say if I want to do privacy and security, you would have your Dart lessons that align to that, your North Star lessons that align. North Star has a new cybersecurity that hasn't been added yet. That was their latest addition. And then you have your Google Applied Digital Skills. So this way it aligns all three, and you just switch by tabs, and you can see them all in one um, with just a tap or a click. Okay. So let's, before we share out, let's do, I was going to say a turn and talk. I know some might need to turn a little bit more. Maybe to your neighbor behind you. And just what are your thoughts? What is something that you think that was useful, something that you would like to see more about? I want to debrief a little bit, and then what we'll do like a couple minutes, and then we'll share together. Those that are in the chat, you guys could use the chat as well. And then what we'll do is that after we can read the comments as well. To do like let's look at about 5 minutes. 30 more. Hello? Can you hear me? Yep, this. Oh, very close. Okay. Okay. This microphone, I need to talk louder so it could hear me. Can you hear me? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay. A lot more. Okay. Better. That one, if I talk a little too loud, then it's like I'm screaming. Okay, perfect. So let's. I wanted to give you guys a chance to talk about it because I know that there's people that had different experiences with curricula and familiarity with it. So just to have a chance to have start that conversation. What we want to do at this point is to start to share out something that you found that was interesting, something that you would like to see, or if you had any other additional questions that you would like to ask. Because again, we're kind of just looking at what curriculum where you will land. I know there's questions within the curricula, the curricula that's available. So if you raise your hand, I'll walk to you. I'll give you the microphone so that way our online participants can hear. And yeah, just ready, set, go.
I went into the skills section and specifically vocabulary. And then it took me to bridges. And there is actually digital skill glossary slides. So you open the slides and you have all the vocabulary there. And we were exploring just now, and there is even a microphone section that you can click and it will read out loud the pronunciation of the word. So I thought this would be really helpful, especially for those low level learners. And it's a good working towards North Star. It gives the definition as well, and it uses it in a sentence as an example. I thought that was cool.
Thank you for sharing. See? Okay, so let me show you what Mariana was referring to us about. So we go here, we're in communication, they all have it. So we're here under skills. She went to vocabulary. And then you have the option to open in Google Slides. And all of the terms here will then show as slides that you could edit and use freely. You can make a copy, you can make edits. So let's say if we were looking at email, I could click here. I could click play. Oh, wait, wrong spot, right down here. Okay, so audio's not up, but it'll say at. Right. So then so they have vocabulary words on everything digital literacy. They even have a section for artificial intelligence as well. And then you could see them by topic, or you could see them alphabetical, and then you could use the vocabulary that way as a way to introduce that vocabulary to your learners, even if you're not, let's say, teaching that lesson already. Anyone else?
I'm wondering, now that you've assembled this wonderful digital literacy curricula spectrum, what is next? What are you working on now? And what's the next gap you're trying to fill? Easy question.
Easy question. So
You haven't done enough yet, Jose. You have to do more work.
So right now, one thing that we were working on was realigning the Google Applied Digital Skill lessons because if we go into the alignment, some of these we already finished that alignment. Now it's updating the website. So we had to go through each domain and update those. So if you're interested next week, if you visit the website, you're going to see new alignment to Google Applied Digital Skills. So that was our current one. We are working with digital navigators and in Connecticut and providing support, especially on the Dart side of it, because building when we were looking at that spectrum, right, that crawling is a lot of intention and you have to provide a lot of practice. But it's not just practicing in isolation. You want to give the students an opportunity to practice in context. Because if they're just going to click on the mouse and just right click and left click, and it's going to get boring very fast. So you kind of need to give them different ways that they could use it and still develop that skill. So that way they're not going to be experts when you taught it once. It's like learning a language. You have to give them different opportunities for them to talk and practice vocabulary. And the more that they're exposed to it, the more connections they make. When we see learners, they'll spend, they'll be 6 months in the program and then they just gain so much language. And part of it is because they practice outside of class. We're not saying that they need to practice outside of class necessarily, while it is recommended, but we want to make sure that we're giving them opportunities to apply those skills in different scenarios, different modalities, so they could really gain that knowledge of or understanding how to use that skill. So that's where we currently are working with more strategies into like bringing Dart across other learning skills. So we're looking at listening, involving listening and speaking, having conversations where they will talk about digital literacy in the context of what they do daily and things like that.
Comments? Saying that these videos could be used as professional development. They're not speaking. Or it's saying these videos could be used for professional development. And in my case, for my clients, even though we don't have a digital literacy curriculum, getting them more acclimated to the world we live in, and so they're not handicapped, so to speak, with the changing technology. Because I'm the only teacher. It's just GED. We don't have an ESL program. We don't have extra curriculum.
We were specifically talking about the North Star trainings that have been done, like the Minnesota one that was up there. You could do like a flipped classroom kind of thing, right? You could say, okay, on May 3rd, I'm making it up, right? Teachers are going to come together for a PD, but watch the North Star training video that you have already uploaded and then flip it so that when they come together, they actually have a base knowledge about North Star, how it works, the layout, what's available, so they could actually collaborate with each other and do some real lesson planning and integrating into their content areas together when they're physically together. Does that make sense?
Yes, excellent point. It's important for teachers to go in as well and experience that as a learner. One thing with North Star, when you give them the access to the content, they have access to the modules and it tracks their progress. I took the Excel one and I'm spreadsheet fanatic here. And there was a couple questions I didn't get right, and again, there's other It goes into social media. It talks about the digital footprint. It's a cybersecurity lesson. They go, just understanding the Mac OS or understanding the Windows 11. So there's a lot. There's different modules that are available, and having teachers go through that and having the opportunity to talk through how they would bring that to the classroom, identify those barriers that they find or those gaps where the student is going more like on that crawling phase. How can you bridge that gap, make that content closer to where they are versus trying to have them try to go all that distance? Because again, that's when we see a lot of that learning gap where it's taking too long to get them on board and that kind of thing.
I was just curious for the resources that you had that are listed in Spanish. Is it a sort of one-to-one from English to Spanish, or is it like entirely different lessons for those of us who are not bilingual?
Excellent question. There's that was Digital Learn, which is where that resource is coming from, has them both in English and Spanish. At the time, what happened is that when we were doing that alignment, and that was World Ed, once you switch the language, it will take you to the main page. So we had to figure out how we can make that connection to the Spanish lesson. You need a Spanish speaker. And then that's where I volunteered to do that alignment. So it's pretty much the same lesson in English and in Spanish, but that's from the website directly. North Star does have most of them in Spanish, but they don't have it in other languages. I know people have requested it before, but right now they've been updating and letting us know. But at this time, I think they're all in Spanish now, or most of them are, the modules. But the newest one, well, the cybersecurity, I don't know if that one is in Spanish. Okay. I need to adjust. Okay. So this is the page that we were just talking about. It's linked here. So if you needed to refer to it and you can't recall what it was, it's here. It's also linked. And we have here, it says 2. As of an hour ago, it's turned back to 3. So we have your learner checklist. This is the spreadsheet version. If you're interested, I am more than willing to sit down with you and talk about the spreadsheet version of it. We have the digital literacy curricula page, which is what we just saw on the website. And then the Glide app, which is like the combination of the two, where you could then find out the alignment across the curricula. I know we open everything for questions. Oh, in the chat, is there anything in the chat? No. As I mentioned before, we're proud to be an Ideal Consortium member state. If you're interested in Bridges or Bridges is free to access, but if you're interested in joining, there's a lot of collaboration. We have Rhode Island as well, and we have Massachusetts, which are also ideal member states and excellent people to work together with. But there's email for Jen Vanek and Rachel Riggs, which they're also presenting throughout the session. So if you want to look them up on Whova, you can, and there's sessions as well. I do have a session tomorrow on AI. It's going to be, there's a card game that we put together and a headline activity, which pretty fun, more interactive than today's session. But thank you so much. We have tech implementation support that we do in Connecticut. Just give me a heads up that you're from COABE. Oh, I attended a session in COABE and wanted to talk a little bit, and we could schedule a session to talk. Thank you very much.